Okay.
Yes, I think it started recording, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
We're
so
recording.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone. This is Osama Maiman. Thank you for joining us tonight. I welcome you all to the online webinar Research Roadmap, Postdoc Research Fellowships in the USA by the Surgeon Circle at GSMU. And before we move on, a set of instructions to maintain the flow of the session. Please keep your mics mute, preferably during the session. Also, if you guys have any questions during the session, we would encourage you to put those in the chat box below. We'd also have a Q&A session at the end of the session for you all to get your answers and your questions done. With that, we have with us today none other than Dr. Syed Ali Haider for this talk. He is, thank you for joining us, Dr. Syed Ali Haider, today. And
Yeah.
he is an SMC graduate, one of us, from the class of 2021, an aspiring plastic surgeon, and currently a postdoc research fellow at the Department of Plastic Surgery in Mayo Clinic, USA. He will be touching on the ins and outs of postdoc research fellowships in the USA by relating it with his own journey. With that, over to you, Dr. Heather.
All right. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining. Welcome. I'm excited to talk to all of you guys. We definitely have a lot to cover. And just for a starter, I think Osama introduced me very well. I graduated from Sun Medical College in 2021. And after that, gave my steps. And currently, I am a postdoc research fellow in plastic surgery at Mayo. So that is about me, and we can go over the other details later on, but I would like to cover like the important chunks first. We still have a lot of people who are joining in constantly, so that would be like a little bit of if we would have to pause sometime so that I can let people in. I just want that everyone gets to benefit from this seminar. And I was told that people from other countries are also joining in, so I would like to, for their sake, keep the medium in English. Okay, so I think I'll start, and I would have to pause to keep letting other people in, so apologies for that. Anyways. All right, so what are we going to cover in this seminar? So I think that part of the reason that this seminar is really important is that we don't have enough guidance about surgical residency, the right mindset. We don't have the right mindset, right? Anytime, especially in Pakistan, if you ever mention to anyone that you are willing to pursue a surgical residency, you are met with so much cynicism. And whenever you see uh, any of the faculty in the US and they have like Pakistani roots or something like that, it's always so relatable, and you expect that like it is beyond your expectation that someone from Pakistan has reached there. So I want to touch upon the right kind of mindset that we need to have in order to achieve a goal as such, right? And the only reason why we're discussing a postdoc research fellowship is because it is going to our hope is that it is going to lead to a surgical residency, right? That is why we're doing it. This is not an end all be all. This is not our destination. This is just a means to an end. So we need to keep in mind what our challenge is. So we're going to touch upon that. We're going to touch upon, do you even need to do a research fellowship? So this is a question that is very customizable, and the answer is different for most people, I would say. But my perspective on this would be from a person who is a non-US IMG planning to get into a surgical residency. Okay, so that's what I would be touching on. I would also tell about internal medicine, of course, if anyone is joining in, so that it could also benefit them. I'm going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of doing a research fellowship, the expectations, what you're expected to do here, right? What should be your expectations as well. So the expectations of your staff and your expectations from them. I'm going to talk about paid and unpaid research positions. What are the differences between them? What are the requirements to um, apply for such a research spot? And I'm going to talk about the USMLE, how that relates to research and a research position. Do you need it or whatever there is? I'm going to talk about the process of applying. So, including some of the visa things that it would be nice to know. And then in the end, I would touch upon my experience at the Mayo Clinic. I would like to ask some of you your actionable steps, what you're going to do, and then we're going to have a Q&A. So this is going to be a power packed session, and I am glad that you guys have joined in. I'm hoping that I can provide some value to your lives. Okay. So this topic is like a little bit close to my heart, which is what the mindset. How important is the mindset to do something like this, right? So we need to learn to challenge our perceptions on what is possible and what is impossible. So I remember there was a Apna booklet, and that was one of the Apna, which is like the American Association of like Pakistani physicians, something like that. And there was this booklet, and Dr. Asra Hashmi had written this phrase, and she was a graduate from Dow Medical College back in I think she graduated in 2012, and it said that how it talked about her experience and how everyone kept on telling her that it was impossible to pursue a surgical residency. And I actually borrowed this line from that, you can say that, editorial or whatever that was, which was that impossible is a state of mind, and until impossible is done, impossible is temporary. So this was a very interesting take, because before that everyone used to say that it is impossible, it is impossible, it is impossible. But when I first read her guidance, I think it sort of was like the first hit that I got on my mindset, on my limited mindset. And just seeing that there was a Pakistani, a graduate from Dow Medical College who was in plastic surgery, I think that was enough of a reason for me to start believing that it is not impossible. It is definitely hard. It is gut wrenching, but it is not impossible. So while you are thinking, and like this is something that has been like my guiding, I would say my North Star, which is that while you're spending your time thinking why it won't happen, or you're listing down all the reasons why this is not going to happen, there is someone with the same circumstances as you who's working 10 times as hard as you and who's going to achieve what you considered was impossible. So I think that is something that you need to keep in mind, especially for SMCNs. I would say that you can say that there is someone from AKU who's doing the same thing, because that's something that I've noticed in students from AKU, is that uh, it's not that we are like dumb or something, or we're not intelligent. It's just that we don't have the right mindset. We have limiting beliefs. And I've noticed this in graduates from AKU or medical students from AKU, that uh, they don't consider anything impossible. They're like, is this an ophthalmology residency? I can do it. Is this a dermatology residency? I can do it. And of course, couple that with extreme hard work and dedication and a strong alumni network, they make it possible. So, but we're not going to look at what we don't have. We're going to look at what we do have, okay, and what we can create for other people. So instead of just crying about, oh, we don't have a strong alumni network. Oh, our university is is not very helpful. I know, I've been there. So instead of crying about that, we can say, what can I do in my situation to change this, or to help other people, right? So that is a very important mindset that you need to have. So you need to have the right intentions when going in, and a targeted goal for what you want to achieve from a research position, right? um, I'm going to tell you like a funny anecdote. I did an elective in Dow University, and I met Dr. Faisal Akhlaq, who was a plastic surgeon there, and I wanted to do research with him. So he asked what my goal was, and I said, "Oh, I want to be a plastic surgeon." And then he said, "You want to do it in Pakistan?" I was like, "Yeah, I don't know. I mean, all my other options are closed. The US is, it's impossible to get into surgery in the US." Then he said, "Who says it's impossible?" And I was like shocked at that point. I'm like, obviously, it's impossible. You cannot do it. It's like there's somebody physically stopping you from entering into the US. And then he said, "No, I know a couple of people who have done it." And that was like one of the other times that I heard about it. And and then and then like I think that the final, um what do you say? How do you call it? The final nail in the coffin for my limited mindset was, I think it was back in the end of my fourth year or something. I attended a conference. It was a pretty meaningless conference. I just went there for the food and with my friend. But who knows? Sometimes you go to some of these places, and unexpected things happen. So I mean, by this time, I was feeling a bit more optimistic. I was like, okay, so I might be able to get into a surgical residency in the UK. And then I met another doctor who was a physician in the UK, and he was talking to me about my interest in surgery. And he asked me, you're going to spend so much time and energy going into the UK. It's going to take you 10 years to become a consultant, and it's not going to be that valuable, right? And he asked me, why do I not try for the US, And I had the same reply. Oh, it's not possible. Like there are very few seats in the US. And and then he said, how many seats do you need? And I said, I need one. And that sort of flipped a switch in me. And at that point I was like, oh, it's so easy to say, but it's very difficult to do, etc. Like I was fighting for my limiting beliefs. And there's a great saying, which goes like, if you fight for your limiting beliefs, you get to keep them. So at that point I was fighting for my limiting belief. No, like my issues are real, like this is not possible, etc. But that made me realize that eventually, like, that settled in, and I was like, yeah, I just need one seat. I need one interview. I need one interview that goes right, and if the stars align, it is going to happen if I want it deep enough. So after that, I spent a lot of time trying to fix my mindset, reading a lot of self-help books. I think they are a great way, because sometimes we don't have the right seniors, we don't have the right environment, and reading good quality self-help books really do help in challenging your beliefs. Um, there were a couple of days where I used to go through the list of, like, hospitals, and as I mentioned, like looking at the faculty, trying to find someone who has the same skin tone as me, like they were either Pakistani or Indian or an IMG. And I think spending all of that time obsessing over who was in the US and who wasn't in the US, I think somewhere along the line I decided that I also wanted to pursue this. So I'm telling you this information to say that I'm not different from any of you guys. I mean, I was a regular student. I was not the top of my class. But I found something that was very near and dear to me. I had spent a lot of time, like, looking at plastic surgeries. I was always finding new surgeons, and like I spent 1 year along with my fourth year. I used to go to a aesthetic surgery clinic for 1 year, like after my university hours. I used to go there, and then I used to record the videos for him, and see him during the surgeries, just because I enjoyed the process. And I spent all of that time to make sure that what I like this was the field that I was going to do anything for. So I think there needs to be a homework that needs to be done, so that when you're stepping into something like that, you are extremely sure that there is absolutely nothing else in this world that you would do. So I feel like if this seminar can do one thing for any of you, is that it will make you realize that you are capable. And do not take advice from someone who has not done what you want to do. You know, so if you want to become a cardiothoracic surgeon, if you want to become a neurosurgeon, don't take advice from someone in Pakistan who is doing internal medicine. Okay, only take advice from a neurosurgeon in the US if that is what you aspire to do. And another piece of advice would be that do not take criticism from anyone you won't take advice from. So sometimes we see some people in our atmosphere, and um, we wouldn't take advice from them. Like, we know that their advice is not worth anything, but when they criticize us, we will take that criticism very seriously. Do not do that. Like, that is going to hurt you. And I'm mentioning all of these things because they are relevant to your journey. So yeah, I mean, it is this journey is it's extremely difficult, and it is uncertain, and there is absolutely no guarantee. You know, the stats are against us. That is the reality of it. I'm not trying to paint um, a very happy picture. Oh, we can do it, guys. Motivation. No, that's not. I mean, that is part of it, what I'm doing, but the reality is that it is extremely, extremely, extremely difficult. But it is a ride. It's not for everyone. Um, but you cannot just say, oh, it's not for me, but you need to test yourself, you know, try to exceed what you can do. So this was just a basic mindset introduction that I wanted to talk about to make this conversation relevant to you, because I can go about all of the details of a postdoc and everything, but if at the end of the day you have a limiting belief, you won't be able to survive this rigorous journey. So let's move on to,
I'm sorry, Dr. Heather, to interrupt you
yeah,
here, but there are a few
yeah.
people who want to join. Can you please let them in? Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sure. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, they missed the good part. All right. So let's move on to talk about some of the challenges and the ground realities of pursuing a surgical residency in the US. Right. This right here is the percent of seats that are taken up by IMGs. All right. This is not the match rate, but this is going to tell you that if there are a hundred medical doctors in a room, right? For example, and the room is for seats for categorical general surgery, right? So only 5.6 of those seats would be filled by non-US IMGs, which are IMGs from all over the world, practically. So this is people from Cambridge, this is people from Oxford, this is people from Imperial College London, you know. Um, and these are people from India, like very extremely, extremely talented, hardworking, intelligent people from India and everywhere, even Pakistan. A fun story is that most categorical spots are filled by Alhan graduates. So they have the highest match. Out of all of the IMGs, Alhan graduates are probably the most in number when it comes to categorical general surgery positions. The same can be said for prelim. It's a little bit better for as compared to categorical, but it's still low. And just for reference, I've kept in internal medicine so that you realize that what the historic difference is, right? So for internal medicine, 30.3% of all seats are occupied by non-US IMGs. So I think this table is enough to tell you about the reality and what our chances are, right? So I would just like to do like a general overview of this topic. If you guys are interested in it, then maybe we can arrange another seminar for it. But I think that um, it's important for all of you to know what are the general paths in pursuing surgery, right? So if you want to become a surgeon in the US, what are your options? When you apply for the match, you can either go into a preliminary spot or you can go into a categorical spot. A preliminary spot is for 1 year, right? And sometimes you see in the match table that there are a lot of unfilled prelim positions, but categorical is like always full. Like I think the past match only 5 positions remained unfilled in categorical, and there were like hundreds of positions in prelim that were unfilled. So it begs the question that like, are people stupid that they're like letting go of a prelim position? No, because prelim position has lots of caveats, which is that the next year you need to apply again. You do 1 year, and the next year you have to go for the match again, go through this cycle again. So, okay, the next year you match into a second year position. Then what happens? Then you then you have to apply again. So you have to go for the match the third time, unless your program decides to absorb you into their university or whatever. So and then what happens if you don't match after PGY2? So if you don't happen to match after PGY2, you can go back into a PGY1, but that does not make sense uh, because of the visa situation, right? So you get a J1 clinical visa for 7 years, and you need to finish your residency within those 7 years. If you do 2 years of prelim and you do not match into a categorical spot, then it means that you won't be able to finish your residency in 7 years, because a categorical position is for 5 years. So a total that would 2 years of prelim and then going into a categorical, that is your best case scenario, right? Or I should say going directly into categorical would be the best case scenario. The second best would be doing 2 years of prelim and then getting into a categorical spot. But if that doesn't happen, then you might have to consider changing your specialty. You would have to apply for internal medicine then. So So for plastic surgery, I would say these are like two options, and I would say I think for neurosurgery, it is 7 years integrated. So the path that you see, hold on, let me just okay. So the path that you see above, this is the integrated surgery pathway, and the path you see below, this is the independent surgical pathway. So integrated means that you directly go into a plastic surgery position and that finishes within 6 years. This is what mostly USMDs do, who are medical students in the US, or if you are a prodigy. A prodigy would mean that if you are an extreme genius who has like 270s in their USMLE, who has 100 publications, who has like basically you are a genius, so, and you are an IMG. I know two guys who no, oh no, I actually know 4 people who matched into plastic surgery integrated, but none of them is from Pakistan. One of them is from Colombia, Venezuela. One of them is from Syria. I think you guys must know this guy Malik Asad. He went into integrated plastic surgery. There's another one, Abbas Hassan. He's from, I don't know where he's from actually. Anyways, so this is for like prodigies, but I would say why not become one? Why not become a prodigy? Why not aspire to get like extremely high USMLE scores, why not aspire to get 100 plus publications? Why not? If you are if you're gonna do it, go big, you know. So, but for example, because the integrated positions are extremely limited, the next option that you have, which most of the time I've seen IMGs doing, is that they would do an independent track. They would do a general surgery residency, going into either directly categorical, doing 2 years of prelim, and then going into categorical. And then after that, they do a surgery fellowship. For example, for plastic surgery, it is 3 years. So you do 5 years, 5 years of general surgery, and then 3 years of um, plastics. That would make it 8 years. All right. However, it could also be that you do 7 years, right? 7 years of general surgery, and then you do 3 years of plastic surgery, and that would make it 10 years. So pretty fun stuff. This is just an overview. We will like if you guys are interested, we can talk about it later some other time. Okay, now for the main focus of our seminar, which is, do I need to do a research fellowship, right? So, as I said, I'm going to talk about this particular subject from the perspective of someone who wants to match into a surgical residency in the US. Because I am in this situation, so my perspective will be from this angle, right? Um, a word of advice is that exceptions are not the rule, right? So you would, of course, here's like I can give you all of this advice, and then you will be like, oh, but I know someone who matched into this specialty with the 220, or who did this, who did that. Those are always exceptions. Okay. I know someone who just matched with contacts. No, exceptions. Exceptions don't make the rule. I'm going to talk about advice that is applicable for generally everyone. Okay. So, when you're thinking about a postdoc application, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a holistic application. Okay. So, the other day I was giving the example of a cake to one of my students. Um, the analogy of a cake and how it represents your application. So, the base of your cake is your USMLE. You know, that is like the base of what you need. Okay. And then you add your US clinical experience, which is like adding some cream or whatever, you know, and then research is like decoration, you know, you're decorating your cake. So my question with you to you guys is that, would you have a cake that is like rotten and very well decorated? Would you ever eat a cake like that? I I think you wouldn't, right? So many a times people focus too much on research or US clinical experience and doing this, doing that, trying to do every single thing. You know, they've not even finished their USMLEs and they want to just enter into a postdoc research position because it's an opportunity. That is not a good idea. Okay, you need to have especially if you're trying to pursue a surgical residency, you need to have a proper cake on which you can build up everything on. You know, so research is decoration. However, when we're looking at such a competitive specialty, which is surgery, everyone has a well-made cake that is well decorated. All right. So now it's the competition for the perfect cake. So the advice for, do you need to do a research fellowship, is, what is your current state, right? So, for example, if you are trying to apply to internal medicine or family medicine, and you already have a strong profile, you have good scores, you have you have at least 3 months of US clinical experience, apply to the match. Do not waste your time. You don't need to do a research fellowship. Okay. Okay. But for someone who has low scores, right? Um, Now we can consider the possibility of USC. For someone with a low score, your journey for surgery is already over. That's the reality. But for someone who has low scores, who's trying to go into internal medicine, okay, do you have the money? Okay. Do you already have the 3 US clinical experiences? Okay, now you can consider doing a research fellowship. Okay, so you have high scores, you have 3 months of US clinical experience, and you have a lot of money, and you want to go into a highly competitive university program, consider it. If you want to go into Yale, you want to go into, I don't know, Stanford, which you should do if you have the money. Why not? It's not to say that you shouldn't do it. If you have the money, why not? Why not go to Yale? So then you can consider it. If you want to pursue surgery, it is an unsaid rule to do research fellowship, and nobody will say it. That's how it is. You need to do a research fellowship. The only exception to this rule would be if you have a 270 plus. I would say if you have a 270 plus, try your luck at the match. Maybe you might enter if you have that high of a score. So it's worth to try your luck. But otherwise, if you want to pursue surgery, do a research fellowship. What are the... Did I hear someone? Okay, hold on. Let me just add more people. Okay. Okay, what are the advantages and disadvantages of doing a research fellowship? Let's talk about the advantages first. They make me excited. Okay. You enter into the US healthcare system. That is one of the major advantages, that doing a research fellowship at a big university hospital, you are into the system. You are going to make connections. You will see your PI, which is your principal investigator, your supervisor. You are going to see them for 2 years or 3 years, something like that. And they would know what sort of a person you are. I mean, compare that to an observership where you're just spending a month, which is nothing. And I have done an observership, and I talked to the faculty there, and even um, they were very supportive and everything, but they were like, to have a very strong letter of recommendation, you need to spend more time, you know. So they were willing to give me an LOR, but they were like, uh, you would need a very strong LOR, which would show that you spent enough time with them, you know. So not only do you have a connection with your PI, you also have connections with other faculty, so you can collaborate on projects with them. That is a great opportunity. Um, this is another thing. Some people would say, can't I just publish papers without a postdoc? Yes, yes, you can post a paper, but you are not getting the connections, all right? Um, and connections are everything in the US. Connections mean a lot, you know. So you can publish papers, and I think when you are in your medical school, you should publish papers, you know, and try to collaborate with people in the US as well. I did. I think I was in my final year when I did a virtual sub internship at Mount Sinai, and after the sub internship ended, and that sub internship entailed me to wake up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. and attend their classes. And they were noticing me, that they used to ask me, like, what time is it there right now, Sayed? And I would say, oh, it's 3 a.m. right now. And they were like, oh, wow, like that is good dedication that you've shown. And after a month of this, I asked one of the professors, I was like, I want to do research. I want to like, um, have projects in plastic surgery. And then he was supportive because he had seen me the entire month, every single day. So um, he was more willing to help me. And then he included me into this research team, and I published a paper from that. So being with a team is there's no other substitute for it. Also, you get good letters of recommendation when you're doing a postdoc, and if you transition to a paid position, then the pay is good. It's around the same as a resident salary. So that could potentially help you in saving up for the match. And if your research profile is phenomenal, you can also try to get a green card. And based on your research output, this is something that I learned after coming here. which is like a EB1 and EB2 green card process. It is a particularly expensive process. I think it's like $9,000, something like that. But if you transition into a paid position, you can definitely save up for this. And if you have a lot of citations, you have this is for extraordinary ability. This green card is for extraordinary ability. So maybe we can touch upon this in some other seminar as I learn more about it. You can also do observership in your home institution. That is very advantageous. So these were the advantages of doing a postdoc. What is the disadvantage? Something that is so beautiful, so sweet, it's not free. So the disadvantages is that it is extremely expensive. Not only is it expensive for your wallet, it is also expensive for your time, because you are delaying your match. If you are not dead set on doing surgery, and if you feel like I think I might be able to do internal medicine as well, like I like it, it's I could do it, then the more you delay your match, every year you delay your match is a loss of $300,000. I have missed a zero. Sorry. So that is a loss of $300,000. Why do I say that? Because that is the physician salary in the US for an internal medicine doctor. So every time that every year that you are delaying your match, you're missing out on that salary, that good salary. So that is why I would say that that is like something that you need to consider. You are also delaying your year of graduation, which is important when it comes to the match, not really important when it comes to surgery. In surgery, people generally don't care about the year of graduation, but for internal medicine, so for example, um, if you later on decide to go into internal medicine, you might encounter some issues because your year of graduation is delayed. And this is all time away from clinical experience. This is very important. This is very, very, very important. You are not going into the clinics, and this is all of this. You're spending time in front of a computer, writing, doing research, and sometimes you might go into the OR, etc., but you're not basically seeing all the patients. I think there are some programs which allow for patient contact and like joining in the OPDs or something like that, but very few. I would say those are very few. Let me just admit another person here. Okay. So, hold on. Yeah. So the thing with a research position is a research position means nothing if your publication record is not good. This is something that one of my mentors told me when I was trying to, when I asked him about a research fellowship, and he was like, it can be a complete waste of time as well. So if you're not dedicated, if you're not self-driven, because a lot of times you would have to come up with the project yourself. If you're not self-driven, you can waste your entire year and not even publish a single paper, um, which can happen. It's not like I have not seen that happen. I have come here and I've seen that happen. So those are some of the disadvantages. Okay, what should be your expectations when you're coming in here for a postdoc? I would say that when you come here, you are very excited. You want to do everything all at once. You're like, oh, in 1 month, I'm going to publish 30 papers, one paper every single day. that, that is like the common expectation, but that's not what happens. Research is something that compounds over time. By compound, I mean, I'm sure when you guys were in high school, you must have seen like the compound interest graphs, which is like initially there is like slow progress, and then and then over time it just skyrockets. So initially you might not be able to publish a lot. You're integrating into the system, you're learning new skills, and during that 1 year you might not publish as much, right? So that is why for surgery, what I've seen is that people usually do research for at least 2 to 3 years, because after the first year you start to see the return on all of your projects. Some projects take more time, and as the time passes, you will see that you're publishing left, right, and center. So research compounds over time, and during this time you're going to focus on your skills. You're going to focus on making your research expertise more versatile, so starting with systematic reviews and doing some retrospective chart reviews and doing some experimental studies, then writing some grants, basically trying to do versatile trying to create a versatile research portfolio, right? And then you will learn how to manage multiple projects at the same time, and eventually with time you would be able to have a mentorship role. Like you would mentor your juniors, your newcomers. That would be what the department expects from you, that you would go into this leadership position. So you need to have leadership mindset, and of course you need to work extremely hard. um, a common perception is that when you come here in the US and you're doing a research fellowship, this is like a time to relax. This is vacation. You can do whatever you want. You're alone on your own. But that's a recipe for disaster. You need to have the same mindset that you had during your USMLEs, which is like the cutthroat mindset, like the hungry mindset. That's what you need to have. So these were some of the expectations that you would have, and what the department would have from you. Let's talk about paid versus unpaid position. All right. So and also, like, if you guys have any questions, please write them down. I'm trying to go as fast as I can. It's already been 1 hour almost. So but we're gonna take your questions after I finish. I just wanna continue so that I don't miss out on anything, and that seems okay. Okay, good. So a paid or an unpaid position. So unpaid position is the rule, right? You remember how we talked about, we had this great discussion about exceptions versus the rule. Uh, Unpaid positions are the rule. If you come here to the US, you there's a very low likelihood that you're going to get a paid position. If you had like you already had like 150 articles back in Pakistan, then okay, I mean, your expectation should be that okay, I think I might get a paid position. But if not, unpaid is the rule. There will be people who have gotten paid positions, but it's not common, right? You need to play your cards right. um, the thing with the unpaid position is that you are coming here on a J1 visa. You're not allowed to work here except for what you've come here to work for. So if you are a research fellow, you're not allowed to work at a grocery store. You're not allowed to stand at a, what do you call that, a petrol station or whatever. That is illegal. If they catch you, they'll deport you, right? So don't do it. It's not worth it. Okay. The 30,000 USD sponsorship. So when you're applying for a J1 visa, uh, the hospital asks you to sponsor yourself, right? So this is something that they have used to play around the system, because initially you cannot employ someone here in the US without paying them, right? So the US being the US, they um, like the hospitals bent the rules a little bit, being like, okay, so if you are coming here, you have to be paid, but you need to be paid by someone except for us, right? So you need to show that you're getting paid here. So when you're applying for a J1 visa, you need to show that you have funds for at least 30,000 US dollars, right? You have this sponsorship. So this is like a big limiting factor for many people. Being like, okay, I don't have 30,000 US dollars to show that I am getting unpaid. I am getting paid this money. Um, but this is just a formality. I would say that you can use any business or anything which to show that you are getting paid this much. It can be your dad's business, your uncle's business, your grandfather's business, anything. So it doesn't need to be that you're sponsored by a hospital or something like that. Or if you already have 30,000 US dollars in your bank account, good for you. Um, do you actually need 30,000 US dollars to stay in the US? No. If you live frugally, if you live within your means, I think you can cut down that cost significantly. So the expectation with an unpaid position is that after 1 year of experience, you transition into a paid position. And for surgery, I would say that the typical timeline, the time that you spend doing research in total, so it's like 1 year of unpaid, and then you do 2 years of paid research fellowship. So yeah, you need to spend like significant period of time to have a strong research portfolio. What about basic science versus clinical science? So a basic science paper, I would say, or a basic science lab publishes papers that are high impact. They are generally papers that are published in like big journals, and the problem is that they take more time. So your quality would be high, but your quantity would not be. Um, as for clinical science, you can do like high impact papers that are published in good journals, but that's um, I think it's dependent on your PI and what sort of work he's doing. You can do retrospective chart reviews that are outcome based, like you're seeing outcomes of different diseases, etc., and those could be high yield. I would say they are like, what do you call, low investment, high reward type of papers. So those are more common in clinical sciences versus basic sciences. The yield is much quicker. So that is something to keep in mind. Okay, what is the process like? When is the best time to apply? What are the requirements? I would say the best time to apply is from September to June, because this is the time period where most of the people are transitioning from, for example, they're going into residencies. The previous batch of postdocs, they have applied for residency, and now they're moving over. Their residency is going to start in June or July. So now PIs are actively looking for more people. Okay, what are the requirements for a postdoc? Do you need prior research experience? Absolutely not. Yeah, this is this is a good thing. But at the same time, if you don't have a prior research experience, don't expect to become paid. That's also a fair assessment, I would say. So, do you need prior research experience? No. You will learn here. Okay. And it also varies according to departments. Some, according to hospitals, some hospitals and some departments expect a complete beginner in research, and they're not paying you, so they're not expecting you to do like a crazy research. But if you are getting paid, then you need a lot of prior research experience, right? USMLE, do you need USMLE or not? This is, I think, the most important question that everyone might have. And this is my advice in highlighted in red. Do not do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Why do I say this? I say this because you are going to mess up your cake. The cake analogy that we talked about previously. So you are going to have an uncooked cake, and then you are trying to decorate it as soon as possible, which is a horrible. Have you ever made a cake? Do you make a cake like you're baking at the same time, decorating at the same time? No, we first bake the base of it, and then we take it outside, we let it sit, we let it rest, and then we add decorations to it. So what happens is that you absolutely can do your USMLE side by side, but from what I have seen, from the people that I have met, it is it is a horrible experience. It's like you cannot do anything at all. You cannot do anything properly. So your USMLEs are suffering, your research is suffering, your research output is not good. You're not good for anything. Always finish your USMLE before coming here. USMLE step 1 and step 2. Maybe you can do step 3 later on. Okay, but at least the most important ones that you need to apply for the match They should be completed before you join your research position. So why do I say this? Why do I say that USMLE need to be you need to be done with your USMLE? Is because the score is the backbone of your application. Let me just show you what I mean by that. So this this is the general score. This is the mean score for people applying for different specialties. You can see that for internal medicine and general medicine, this is around 250 already, right? So, and this is for USMD seniors. So basically, what I mean by that is if USMDs are scoring this much, you need to aim to score higher than them, you know. And I mean, these are crazy scores to look at. Back in 2019, 2020, this wasn't how this table would have looked like. But now apparently this is what our reality is. So, but I would say that don't be too overwhelmed by it, because scores um, are the base of your cake, but of course they're not everything. You just cannot have a very well baked a very well baked base but have nothing over it, you know. So we need a well-rounded, well decorated cake. So don't spend like 4 years studying for step one and then 4 years studying for step two. That's not a good idea, because you need to also work on your other parts of your application, right? It's not like if you have a 260 you're going to get into plastic surgery. No, that's not the case. If you have a 260 and you have US clinical experience and you have research experience, then you have a shot. So the analogy that I use for scores is that they keep you in the race, you know, they keep you in the race. So if you have a low score, you're out of the race for a surgical specialty. I'm not talking about medicine. For a surgical specialty, there will be exceptions. You will sometimes you will hear about people who scored very low and got in. Those are exceptions. They are blessed by God. You know, what can I say? But they are not the rule. All right. So okay, let's move on with the process. How to apply for um, how to apply for a research position. Are you guys with me? Are you guys tired? Can I get some response? Okay, good. Everyone seems to be interested. Do you guys want a break or something? Are you guys tired? Okay.
Looks like they don't need a break. Yes.
Okay, good. Good. All right. So let's talk about the process. What you need to do before you start applying. Okay, you need to have a priority list. All right. I think a good way to do it, if you're considering doing an unpaid research position, is that um, try finding places where you have like relatives or somebody there, so that you don't have to pay for housing, because that is like the major expense, right? That is a major expense for staying in the US unpaid. So if, for example, you have a relative in the US in that particular state, I think you need to prioritize that state. For example, you have somebody in New York, you're thinking, okay, like I can stay in New York for 1 year, and I will be very nice to my relatives. So I can probably go there. That is a priority that you need to set yourself. If you can afford, if you have a lot of money, then go to the best place. You know, don't consider anything. Just go to the best place. Another priority you need to consider is, do you have a research team or not? If you have a big team, the benefit of that is that everyone publishes, and the more everyone publishes, the more you publish, because uh, we help each other with our project. So I might help with editing, I might help with giving somebody an idea, I might help with some statistics, and my name is on everybody's paper. So the bigger the team is, the better it is for you. And I did not think about all of these things when I was applying, but I think that these are like really very rare pearls that you guys are getting right now. So if you have a team of 4, when everyone publishes 4 articles, calculate the permutation. Okay. So go to a place that has a residency program. Why do I say that? Because the hold on, let me just add more people. I think more people are coming in. Okay. Why do I say that go to a place with a residency program? That is because the 1 year or whatever time that you decide to spend there, the entire year is going to be like your audition rotation, we call it. They're going to see you, they're going to know you, you're going to be a human to them. You're not going to be just a name on a piece of paper for them. And then you, because you have spent so much face to face time with them, like really, they know you as a person, they can write you a very strong letter, they can vouch for you, and they can include you into their program, they can integrate you into their program, and you don't have to look elsewhere, what a better spot to be in. The other priority is that choose your field of choice. If you are interested into plastic surgery, do not go into sleep medicine, do not go into hematology, oncology, because just because you are getting this opportunity. No, your research should be oriented towards your goal, your ultimate residency goal. And why do I say that? Because if you are planning to go into neurosurgery and you're going into a hematology oncology research fellowship, you are not getting the right connections, you're not meeting the right people. So no matter how much you publish, you're never meeting somebody who is a figure, who's the man in the field, who can vouch for you. So always apply for your field. The next thing is the importance of a research mentor. This is very, very important. You need to see and you need to ensure that your research mentor has advocated for other people in the past. Um, there has been like a sad situation recently in this match where I met with somebody who had a mentor. They were from like this other department, and their mentor did not vouch for them, you know, and that really messed up their match. So, how do we know that their mentor vouched for them? You can see their previous fellows. You can see what their match rates were, and then you can get a better idea of, okay, this mentor is going to help me later on. Ooh, okay. Where do you look for a research position? Okay. The first thing is that you need to look at the websites for the hospitals. Sometimes the websites post that there are openings, and then you can just apply for them. We've got some job portals. For example, I think for plastic surgery it is ACEPS, ACEPS, but I think for general surgery there's some other one. I just don't remember it. I'm sorry. Um, but I think you're intelligent enough, you can Google it, try searching for societies like that who post about who have a job board where they post. And you can try LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great place where you can reach out to other people. Twitter X is a great place where you can reach out to physicians in the US, saying that you need positions. Of course, connections are a way to get a research spot. If you know somebody, ask them to recommend you to someone else, saying that you need a research spot. That is like a very, very solid way to get into a research position. And for example, if you have decided that you want to do a research fellowship in New York, and you have decided that, okay, this is the hospital that I have, for example, this Memorial Sloan Kettering, I want to do a research fellowship there. You go into their list, into the hospital's website. You see who the physician is, right? Who are the professors there? Who run the labs there? So you see, okay, this is Dr. XYZ, and now you want to reach out to them. How will you reach out to them? You will go into Google Scholar and you will go into PubMed, and then you will write their names, and then you will see their articles will come up, right? So whenever you submit an article, uh, mostly the senior author in it is the corresponding author. For example, who the PI is the corresponding author. So you will see their emails in any one of those publications, right? They would have their email in any one of those publications. So you can get their email and then you can reach out to them. I've heard people had success with Doximity. So that is like a that's where they post about residency positions and etc. Residency programs. I think you can also look into that. I don't have much experience with that, unfortunately, that I can tell. Um, Instagram is a great place to look at, and actually, I applied through Instagram, believe it or not. So don't miss out on opportunities on Instagram. I did my virtual sub internship at Mount Sinai when I got to see a poster on Instagram. So don't use your Instagram just for reels. Of course, use them for reels, but use them for finding new positions as well. Though that is very helpful. Okay. How do you prepare your application? You need a cover letter, which is a letter of intent where you write who you are, why you are applying for this position, what are your career goals, what this is supposed to be extremely personalized to the program. I saw this, and this in your program. I see that you do this, and this work. I think it aligns to my career goals. I am a medical graduate from Pakistan. I have given my USMLE exams. My step scores are this. Um, my research experience is this. I've worked on these projects, and I would like to be a part of your lab. And it is supposed to be one page. Don't make it. Um, this is not Shakespeare. Okay, this is supposed to be one page, clear, concise, and everything should be like visible there. All right. Next thing, you have your CV. Create a well curated CV, which is for research. A research CV needs to emphasize on research first. So we don't want a CV where we have the section for research in the end. We need to have a CV where the first section that we talk about is about our research, right? So this is not the time to talk about your high school achievements. This is not the time to talk about X, Y, Z, your volunteer experience or whatever your clinical experience. You did 6 months of electives and whatever. This is about your for that. If you're applying for a clinical elective, that is a different ball game. But if you're applying for a research spot, the physicians don't have time here. Okay, that is something you need to keep in mind. Every second that they spend on you is like it is extremely valuable. So you don't want to waste their time. It pisses them off if you waste their time. So when they open your CV, like just a glance at it and they know what your research achievements are. They're interested now. Okay, this guy knows how to do research. So that is how you should curate your CV. Keep it simple. Don't add too much colors. Don't just keep it simple, black and white. It's important that the material is visible. It's well spaced out. You can see everything, and it's in good sections, right? Maybe some other time we can have a session on how to create like a nice CV, but for I think for this session, this much detail is enough. Your email. So when you email them, you have to be short. Don't write long stories, and emphasize your relevant research related achievements in those emails, right? If you have a good step score, definitely mention that I have this score, and mention a couple of your articles, and then say that my research interest aligns with yours. Keep it personalized. Do not send the same email to every single person that you know. All right, make it personalized, make it about their work. Oh, here's another thing that I don't think any one of you would know about, which is what is the difference between a research fellow and a research trainee. This is something that I got to know about when I came here at Mayo. So, a research trainee is somebody who has a limited tenure of 12 to 15 months. You can say that this is a lesser position than a research fellow. A research fellow has a higher position than a research trainee, right? So a research trainee cannot stay um, in the department for more than 15 months, right? Usually they cannot go into operating rooms, they cannot have patient contacts, they cannot get paid, right? However, it's not like if you are a research trainee, you are like that is your fate. From now on you can transition over to a research fellow position, and that process takes about 3 months. But I would say when you're coming in here, um, try to get the research fellow position because it makes everything easier. If they decide to pay you, there is no gap between, like gap of 3 months or something like that, changing your transitioning your position. And you can, the main difference between a research trainee and a fellow is that a research fellow can stay here for 5 years. So they can stay for their entire duration of their visa, which is the J1 research visa. Okay, try to come here on a research fellow position, but if a research trainee is what you're getting, get it, maybe transition over. I've seen people transitioning, not an issue. What is the process like? Pretty straightforward process. After you're accepted, someone from the HR will connect with you. You will be asked to provide your most recent CV and fill out some forms, and then they will take some time, and then they will issue your DS 2019, and they will give you an expedited visa processing letter, which is like that we need this person right now, because you know that visa appointments in Pakistan are crazy right now. So you will fill out your application, and then you will apply for the visa interview. After you have your letter of support from like a big hospital, like a big institution like Mayo or something like that, then visa is not typically an issue unless you mess up your interview or something like that. But um, it's easy to get a visa once you have your letter of support from a big institution. You get your visa, and hooray, you fly to the US. Okay, I want to touch upon the J1 visa. Um, okay, let me just let someone. Okay, I want to touch upon the J1 visa. So there are two types of J1 visas: the J1 research visa and the J1 clinical visa. When you come here for a postdoc, you are coming here on a J1 research visa. So this visa is for 5 years, right? So you can do a research fellowship position for 5 years. And for Pakistan, there is no home country rule. A home country rule would mean that you, after your visa is finished, you need to go back to your home country, and then you have to stay there for 2 years and then come back. I'm talking about J1 research, but this is applicable in J1 clinical, which is what you get when you apply for residency. So these are two separate visas. And you get your DS 2019, which is basically the form that you have to show that your status is legal here in the US. And basically, the hospital does everything for you after you're here. So it is extendable. So if you get a DS 2019 for 1 year, they're going to extend it for another year automatically on their own. You don't have to worry about that a lot. So then you have the J1 clinical visa, which is for residency. That visa is for 7 years, like I mentioned. And why I'm mentioning this here, because you need to keep that in mind for your surgical residency. I'm not here for an unlimited period of time. I cannot be here for 10 years and keep applying for a surgical spot. You have your 7 years to finish everything, right? So another thing is that you can come on a J1 research visa, do your research fellowship, and transition to a J1 clinical. You can come on a J1 clinical visa. For example, you are doing a prelim position. For example, you don't go for a research position, you go for a general surgery prelim position, right? So you would get a J1 clinical first. And after 2 years, you don't match, okay? Then you can transition over to a J1 research, okay? And then you do your J1 research, and then you can go back into your clinical. But the weird part is you cannot go from a J1 research to a J1 clinical and then back to a J1 research. So this is like a bit of a mind something. Um, so keep in mind that when you apply for a J1 research visa and you do a prelim position for 2 years, right? So you have already changed your J1 research to a J1 clinical. But after you've converted to a J1 clinical, you cannot, and you went unmatched, you cannot do a research fellowship again. So you're stuck at that point. So you can only have a J1 clinical, and either you go into internal medicine or you change your specialty or you go back home, whatever. Another question is, if somebody here is on a B1 B2 visa, if they already have a B1 B2 visa, yes, it can be converted. I wouldn't say converted, like they issue a J1 separately. I had a B1 B2 visa, but I had to apply for a J1 visa, and for that, I had to go back to Pakistan. So um, I was in the US when I got this research position, and then um, for this entire process, I had to go back to Pakistan and then apply for my J1 visa. There's also, I'm not sure. There's also a Dropbox, what they say, or something like where you can just you do not have to give the interview. You can just appear. If you have a B1 B2 visa, you just have to submit your documents for a J1. I did not do that, but I think it is possible. Like, I have talked to other people. I think the issue was that I went from the US to Saudi, and then from Saudi to Pakistan. And when I was in Saudi, that's when I applied for my J1 visa interview. And I think it had a clause that, are you currently in your home country? And I said, no, I'm not. And that's why I had to later give an interview. Just look into it. I am not sure. What I did was I had a B1, B2 visa, and then I went back to Pakistan, and then I got a J1 visa. So I have both the visas now. I did not convert. Weird. Okay. So something about my personal experience, how I got here, right? So I had like 12 articles, I think 11, 12 articles from when I was in medical school, and we were a group of three, and we used to publish a lot. So we wouldn't study as much as we would publish. that. So ever since the first year, we were always interested in research, and we used to publish a lot. And after I finished my USMLE, I graduated, and then I finished my USMLE, and then I went to New York City for an observership. I had no plans of doing a postdoc at that point. I was just uh, planning on applying for the match and trying my luck. But when I did my observership and I talked to one of my mentors, and he advised that you have all of this time in between, and I think that you should go for this opportunity if you can afford it somehow. So mm, okay, yeah. Anyways, so he advised me to just take this opportunity, and then I I saw a post on Instagram from the Mayo Clinic, Florida plastic surgery department, and they posted that they had 100% match rate. All of their fellows either matched into general surgery prelims, or they matched into, like, I think one of them definitely matched into an integrated plastic surgery. So I saw that and I was intrigued by it. I was like, damn, like, that looks nice. So I sent a DM on Instagram. I slid into their DMs, guys. I slid into their DMs. I DM'd them saying that I was interested in this position, and I'm interested if you guys have any opportunities available. They did not post anything about if there's an opportunity. I was just like, okay, like, I am interested in doing a postdoc. Do you guys have a position? When do the spots open? And then I got a reply saying that, are you interested in applying? Okay, then send your CV to this email. And you can say that I was lucky in that case, but at the same time, um, you can say luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So I was constantly seeking these experiences. I was constantly, and you have to apply. You have to already have a ready CV. You have to have everything ready. So it was an easy transition for me because I had been applying already to a couple of other programs. I had already been applying to a couple of other programs, and I had everything with me. But this was how you get it. So if it's in your fate, it's gonna happen. You don't have to worry too much about it. Just keep on applying. Just keep on. Um, just don't feel disappointed that it's not working out. It's not for me. If it's meant for you, it's gonna happen. Just keep on trying again and again, and that is like the name of the game, right? So for a research position, I think that it really helps to have a community. When I got here, I had three other research fellows with me, and you have a shared bigger goal. So when I was in Pakistan, I was the only one with this big goal, right? I did not have other people who were around me with the same goal. I was the only person trying to pursue a surgical residency. But now I have other people who are sharing what they know. They have the bigger goal, and it's obvious that you can achieve more things together. There's like a some negative mentality that some people might have, which is that they want to do everything alone, but uh, you can go fast alone, but you cannot go far alone. So you need other people with you, and who understand what you're going through. I think one of the reasons why I have decided to do this seminar is because I know that there's like a severe lack of support for medical students, especially in SMC, who want to pursue surgical specialty. So that's why I would advise you guys to create that community within yourself. Create that before it's too late. We don't want only the AKUBians to take all of the seats in surgical residencies. We don't want only like the Taoites to go in there. We want everyone to go in there. We want, because you're not any less. You have everything that it takes to get here. I mean, um, the only issue is that sometimes in SMC people hide things from each other, and that is extremely toxic and not good at all. So, and the good thing that I've noticed with the other colleges is that everyone is sharing everyone. I don't know how it is for you guys right now, but that was my experience. So try to learn from that. Try to be more open. Try to have more productive discussions. Don't waste your time on stupid things. I definitely have wasted my time on stupid things, and I have gotten my lessons. So learn from me. Don't do stupid things. Create communities. I think you guys are already doing so well. I wish there was um, something like this where people would come up and talk about their experience. So I'm really proud of you guys for doing all of this. Also, what does a day in the life of a research fellow look like? So you have your standard days, Monday to Friday. You have to do your 8 hours of work there. Um, we have a little bit of flexibility in what time we go there, but we're expected to work for at least 8 hours. But that is just not true. We don't work for 8 hours. We work constantly. We work nonstop. 8 hours is the like I wish it was 8 hours, but when you go into the office, you see that there's so much work that needs to be done. You spend days, sometimes you spend 20 hours just trying to meet a deadline, and it is on site. So I live close by. I usually bike to the hospital, so I save that money. And maybe we can have a seminar later on how to like live frugally as a research fellow. But that like I try to minimize my expenses, and I think when you're here, what I've noticed is that you need to have a balance between high quality and or I should say high investment and low investment projects. So a low investment project is something that is quick to produce, and it is not as valuable, but it is valuable. And a high investment project is, it needs a lot of time, it needs a lot of attention. So not all of your projects need to be one way or the other. You need to strike a balance. Sometimes doing a quick project would increase your n number. The n number is the research number, how many publications you have. So if you have that, quantity matters in the US. It is the fact of the matter. Quantity matters, the n number matters. So it shouldn't be like you just have crappy articles, just letters to the editors only, because you just want to fulfill the n number, but you need to strike a balance. That has been my experience, and that is what I have learned after 5 months here. So let's talk about some of the actionable steps. What are your actionable steps? I know it's so overwhelming to see somebody talk for over 1 hour, 30 minutes. I am sure a lot of you must have zoned out. The post iftar insulin spike has kicked in, and you want to get done with it. But I would suggest that if you have a piece of paper and a pen, please do write down your actionable steps. please write down what you feel like you would do. For example, if somebody has not given their USMLE yet, then their actionable step is, I'm going to give the USMLE by this time, and meanwhile, I'm going to do remote research, right? I'm going to remotely work with people. If somebody has already given their USMLE, they've graduated, then they should have an actionable step like, okay, now I need, and they are obviously going to try to pursue a surgical residency. Then they're like, okay, now I need to reach out to some physicians. So I need to start searching for um, I need to start searching for physicians. I need to start reaching out to people. So for everyone, I would say at their stage, the actionable step is different. But I would like you all to write that down while everything is fresh in your mind, while you're motivated to do it. And after you're finished writing your actionable step, we are going to move on to the question and answer session. Okay, we are having. Has everyone written their actionable steps yet? I need to see a yes in the in-call messages, the chat. Please let me know if you've written your actionable steps. Okay, I have 3, 4, 5 yeses from Daniel, Saad, Afsa, Mariam, Usama, Dua. Great job, guys. Good. Farah, Faria, Mariam. Let's get it. Let's get it. Ahmad, Aliza. Excellent, guys. Great job. All right, let's start with the Q&A session. Osama, if you'd like to come and moderate it.
Of course, Dr. Heather, thank you so much for so many perspectives around postdoc research fellowships. It's not only covering the basics of it, what is it about, but all the technicalities of it. We actually really wanted insights on that. So thank you for that. And we will be taking a few questions.
Sorry, you're not audible, Osama. I cannot hear you. You definitely had a lot of participants today. I was not expecting so many. Waiting for Osama to get back. Okay, I'll try to answer your questions meanwhile that he fixes his mic situation. Okay, it's only for B1, B2. I got my renewed through a Dropbox. That Dropbox is eligible for people whose B2 visa has expired within the last 5 years. So Daniel has a good insight on this. How many publications we should have at least to expect a paid fellowship in research, like more than 50 is enough or 100? I would say like if you have more than 100, then start expecting to have a paid position in the US, and like 100 PubMed indexed, not just publications for the sake of it. Why would we need a research fellowship after giving our step if we already have a couple of researches done? So I think I covered that why you need a research fellowship. Let me just quickly tell you, let me just quickly show you this part, which stated, can't I just publish papers without a postdoc? And that so that gets across. Okay. So yes, I mean, if you've done research and you've given your USMLE, but you're planning to pursue a surgical specialty, you need strong connections, you need strong letters of recommendation. So that is why you need to do uh, a research fellowship. Um, Let me see. It is necessary to give MLE before applying for research fellow. Do they require this? I think I did mention that they do not require, but it is highly advisable to give your USMLE before, or you'd be wasting your time. Okay, Mariam wants to ask a question. May I have the mic? Of course, Mariam. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, I'm Mariam from SMC 22.
Hi,
Very
Mariam.
nice session. I have a couple of questions. I'll try to keep them as short as possible for everybody's sake.
Sure.
So, you mentioned about fostering mentorship with your PI and within the other people, maybe even beyond your lab. Do you have any insights on how to go about that? Really
Yeah, of
appreciate.
course, of course. So the thing with that is that you need to attend the rounds, the meetings, right? Whenever they have grand rounds, whenever they have core curriculum sessions, which is for education for residents, you are actively going there, you are actively introducing yourself there, and then you ask your PI that you want to do research with those other professors as well. So, for example, in my case, my PI did not want us to work on retrospective reviews, but he was open to the idea of us working with this other PI for our retrospective chart reviews. So he was like, "Of course, if you are done with my task, you can go ahead and work with him." So we made sure that we finished his task, and then we used to have meetings with him, and we are currently doing a project with him. So that is how like a natural relationship forms, when you're in the vicinity of other people.
Thank you. That was quite insightful. The second question I had is that sometimes they give you an option that, all right, so you'll be unpaid for a time frame, like you mentioned, and the other option is that, okay, so you can be unpaid till until you secure a grant or until you have a first author publication. So
Yeah.
is that something you've come across in your experience, and how do you advise on tackling that?
Yeah, definitely. I think you have the right idea. So it is highly variable, and it depends on every department, every PI. Everyone is different, of course. So sometimes they would say that you will have to do 1 year of unpaid research, and then we will consider the possibility of converting you into paid. This is the language that I've usually come across. Nobody's going to say, because you're okay, because you are new, all right. They don't know you. So when they're allowing you to come into the US to do an unpaid position, they won't guarantee that after 1 year, I promise, I swear that I'm going to pay you, right? They will say that we will consider the possibility, because they want to see your work ethic. They don't want somebody who's a burden on their lab. Or uh, sometimes PIs would say that, okay, if you help us secure a grant, then we can consider the possibility of paying you. So that is definitely, I would say, I agree with that. However, the funding, you always make sure to ask the PI wherever you're applying, is there a possibility of getting paid, right? Because sometimes you don't want to have false hopes of getting paid and then getting disappointed later on. So always make sure to, whenever you're applying, whenever you're interviewing, asking, is there a possibility to get paid later on in this role if you're planning on doing an unpaid? And if he says, no, like this department does not have funding. Like, people are very clear about it if they feel like there is no funding. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
That does. Thank you for clearing that. So the next question is that sometimes you mentioned that you're away from clinic, and so that takes away from your experience as a doctor. Sometimes I've seen that people do sub-Is within their postdoc. So is that something you discuss beforehand, or is that just an opportunity that you come across and you can grasp at it?
I think this is something that you need to discuss beforehand, because when you are on a J1 visa, right? When you're on a J1 research visa, there are very particular like guardrails around you. And when you are in a research fellow position or whatever, and those, and you are a graduate already, right? So after you're a graduate, you usually do not qualify for a hands-on elective. You usually do a externship, right? So I feel like you definitely need to ask. I mean, I asked before coming here, and I was told that I could observe as much as I wanted, but I could not scrub in, right? And I would say that is true for most people. Um, I mean, there can be exceptions, of course, but I am not aware of those exceptions.
All right, thank you. Just the last question. Sorry to take
Sure.
so much time.
No, no worries.
So, in an interview, when you're for a job, you're in an interview. So they give you some time at the end. Okay, what questions do you have for us?
Yeah.
So what are some of the impactful questions that I can, present to them that's gonna like highlight me?
I think at the end of an interview, you need to make sure that you know the program really well before you're uh, before you're giving the interview, right? So uh, their you go into their portfolio and you see how many residents are there, who the residents are, and then maybe you can look for their research publications. And I think um, if you're talking about this from a research perspective, that they ask if you have any questions, you can definitely talk about some of the PI's projects. You can say that I read your paper on this, and be honest. Like, of course, don't lie to him. And the expectation is that you have gone through all of his papers before applying. Say that you really like this project, and you would like to know anything about it. Ask a question that is intriguing. Ask a question that makes you look like you've done your homework, right? So you can have like genuine questions. It's like sometimes we're just so caught up in what the other person is thinking about us that we forget to ask ourselves, what do we think about the other person, right? What do I think about this PI? What do I think about this research program? So we're just always trying to be this, you know um, be like a model of perfection. Oh, am being conscious? Oh, am I being picture perfect right now? So get out of that mentality and be curious. When you meet someone, you are curious about them. What do you want to know about them, right? You're not, if you're concerned about what they're thinking about you won't have any genuine questions. But if you're if you're thinking about, like, I'm genuinely interested in this person. Genuinely, I'm not caught up in what they are thinking about me. I'm genuinely interested in them. Then you would have like more genuine questions, and you wouldn't be nervous when like during these interactions. So that's like a helpful tip that I have.
That was very well put together. Thank you. That's all the questions I had. Thank you very
Thank,
much.
thank you, Mariam. Can you please include us, particularly me, in your upcoming research projects, please? Okay, so the situation with my department is that our PI um, does not allow for remote researchers, right? And he is the one who calls the shots. For example, he is the one who will I mean, he's always open to getting people in, like, on site. That's why I recently uploaded this advertisement for postdoc. That's what he wants. I think it's like, of course, it's about patient privacy. You cannot have anyone from the other part of the world. So if you are interested in doing an on-site, please make sure you fill in that Google form. But I'm just not at the liberty of issuing a research project. But of course, if you have any project that you're doing by yourself, please feel free to reach out to me, and I can like help you or mentor you or like guide you. Ahmed Siddiqui asks, a request to please get this crucial seminar posted on the Surgeon Circle or anywhere on social media so that it can get across masses. There's only 50 people. Please consider if it is possible. Of course, Ahmed, I think we're recording this seminar and we will have this out. I heard seniors saying that you can do step 2 along with the postdoc research. And how can we work on both without compromising? Exactly. How can we work on both without compromising on either? I think you should ask those seniors. I don't know how people do it. Maybe maybe I am just too dumb, but I've seen people suffering here, and their scores are getting compromised, and their research is getting compromised. My opinion: don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, Daniel, I got 11 published, but obviously need more. Yeah, it's a numbers game. Umid Khan, if B1 B2 visa is still valid and needs to be converted to J1, can it be done via Dropbox? I have heard that being done. I went for an interview. I think that is possible. Um, Please ask anyone who is more well versed with the visa situation than me. What are the requirements for a paid research position? I think we went over that. Um, Either you do an unpaid year of research or you have tons of publications. Would you like to talk about USMLE timeline, how much you took for step one? I think that is something that I would like to reserve for some other session, because it's already been, I don't know, 2 hours or something. Is research a good option to prevent CV gap while preparing for USMLE after graduation? If not, then what could other options to consider within or outside Pakistan? Yes, that is a good option. If to prevent a CV gap, if you have a lot of money, and you don't care that much about your research productivity, because while you're preparing for the USMLE, you know how what it takes, what kind of a score they're demanding from you. It puts you in a tricky situation. But for example, if you can live in the US, you have somebody in the US already um, who can like you can live in their home, and you don't have too many expenses, then yes, I think that might be a good option. But that is rare to have somebody who would like keep you for a year. What was your step 2 score, if you're okay with it? Yeah, 250 plus. What is minimum cost you need for 1 year expenses until you get paid? Any cutoff will be helpful. What is the minimum cost you need for 1 year expenses until you get paid? Okay, yeah. So this is a good question. I think it completely depends on your how you plan on living. For example, if you can, if you live very extremely frugally, right, but you're still paying rent, I think you can go about like $11,000 for the entire year if you're living frugally, because rent is going to take up like $600. So you're just living off of like $400 for food and basically practically every single thing. Um, However, and you're living in shared spaces, you're sharing your kitchen, you're sharing everything, and it depends on where you are applying. So some um, some states are much cheaper than others. Don't expect this number to stay the same if you're living in New York. You would be crying blood at that point. I'm telling you about like Jacksonville, Florida, where I'm currently living. I think if you want to have a good, like a well balanced stay during your entire year, at least have like 14-15 thousand dollars, so that you're not hungry, or like you can basically eat your food. And because food and rent and these things are, and unexpected expenses also come in. For example, the price of health insurance is like, the minimum was $650-700 for the entire year. So those are just expenses that you never plan about, and then they just hit you. Can you suggest any good societies or organization to start surgical research as a beginner, or as a remote research organization? Is it possible to get a postdoc research fellowship with no prior research experience? Yes. A good society, I would say that uh, if you have seniors in your own um, colleges, right, who are doing research, you can definitely link up with them. And I'm not sure which societies are currently running there, but try to do as much as you can locally. Try to write case reports, maybe even like, if you can, publish in Curious, stuff like that. So those are if you are asking about remote research opportunities here in the US, there are remote research opportunities in the US. I think you just need to search for them. um, people do people do apply and people do get in for like 5 months or 6 months, something like that. I think you would have to do your homework on that. And it is possible to get in without a prior research experience because you are doing unpaid slavery, basically, unpaid labor. Like you mentioned, you and your friends publish a lot. Can you guide us? Yes. So we were just very self-driven. That's what I would say. Like, we were just constantly thinking about what to publish. I think we were that was our dopamine hit to get published in PubMed indexed journals. So I think if you can find like 3 or 4 people who just give each other ideas, and then you do the methods, you do the discussion, I do the statistics, that really helps alleviate the burden of doing research. So I think you can also try searching for like Facebook groups or something like that. If these USMLE groups, asking them if they have like research opportunities. Do not pay for research, by the way. That is like very unethical. You're if you're paying someone to get a article, it's highly unethical, and you could get into trouble for that. Can we reach you out for a research project if you need help? Of course, but I cannot involve you into the research projects that are happening at Mayo because that's not up to me. It's my PI. How much time in months exactly is considered a gap? I would say a gap is like a solid gap that somebody cares about is like 2 years of gap. Anything that is like under a year, you can maybe justify it. It's not a very difficult thing. I highly appreciate you for guiding us. You're welcome for joining in, Daniel. Fatma Qayyum Abbasi, can you please suggest whom we as medical students can contact to check the viability of topics of research? Because most of the time we come across topics and ideas and have taken some research workshop, but it's so hard to find some mentor or perhaps. I think there's like you can reach out to your professors. In SMC, we had Dr. Tafazul, I think, and we used to discuss our ideas with him. But instead of over analyzing if my research project is good, if my research project is bad, it's always better to just do it and then figure it out. That was what was my perception about it. You learn more by doing, right? You can ask your seniors, of course, if you have a project and you want to know if it's like viable or not. You can message me, and I definitely don't have enough time, but I will try. I do try to help as many people as I can, so I can maybe look at your topic and um, maybe guide you if you're really interested. Is there a difference between a research associate or a research coordinator and a research fellow? I think here in Mayo, the only 2 positions offered are research trainee and research fellow. And I went over those differences. I think a research associate or a coordinator are both a research trainee positions. Similar is the case with a research assistant. I think all of them are research trainee positions. But I'm not sure. So take my advice with a grain of salt. How many publications did you have during your? I said I had like 11, 12 publications. The session is very well put together. The slides are excellent. Thank you for sharing your experience and incredible. And thank you. And good luck in your. Thank you so much, Mariam. I appreciate. Thank you for amazing. Thank you, Hafsa. If you were employed as a medical officer during the gap. No, why would it be a gap? Like you are a medical officer. I've heard that NIH funded are mostly paid, but they have 2 year. Yes, if it is NIH funded, you have a 2 year home country requirement. Do you recommend going for them, or will it create visa issues? I know that when research is funded by NIH, you have a 2 year home rule, but I'm not sure if it is applicable for Pakistan. You know, I'm not sure if it's applicable for Pakistan. I think the 2 year home country rule for J1 research, that, even if they say it's not, it's not really, it's not really as enforced. I think you need to talk to a visa lawyer to get a better perspective on it. But I think generally the J1 research home rule is not applicable for Pakistan, from my knowledge. Sabina Hassanzadeh, thank you for great session. Presentation was amazing. I wish you good luck to you, Dr. Heather. Thank you so much. Aisha, thank you, Dr. Heather. Very helpful. Lots of duas. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, so is Osama here? We can just wrap up then. Let me see if Osama is here or not. Is anyone from the
I think Osama is having internet issues, but it was wonderful having you on board. And I'm sure everyone else loved the session as much as I did. We will definitely want to have more talks with you in the future on the topics that you mentioned during the session. And thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Heather.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Dr. Heather. Thank you so much for the incredible talk.
Of course.
Yes,
I
I
think
hope
something
we all.
happened.
I hope they all enjoyed it. Yep.
Yeah, I think it's time to wrap up. Thank you everyone for joining in. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to my Instagram and DM me if you need any assistance. Thank you so much.
Definitely. Have a good day, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.